Welcome to the She Will Shine podcast, where we bring you the real stories of female business owners. My name is Danielle Price and I'm the founder of She Will Shine, a supportive business network for women. It's time to give a voice to women in business and discover their journey.
Hi everyone and welcome to the She Will Shine podcast. Today we have the lovely Kelly Williams with us. How are you, Kelly?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for being here with us. It is very exciting. I finally got you, yay! Kelly is the founder of Pascoe Tales, which is a retail store in Pascoe Vale, which provides eco-friendly giftware and products. And it's an awesome little store to just pop in and browse around. I've done that many a time. And today she is with us sharing her story. So, Kelly, I thought we might start. You weren't always in retail. You had a career prior to that. Can you share a little bit about that?
So this is really my tree change from a teaching career. So I've been teaching music and flute for my whole career since I left school. And mostly through the Catholic system, secondary, and then got more and more involved in a permanent teaching job with all different roles, leadership, ensembles, regular teaching, classroom teaching, private teaching. It sort of kept branching and branching.
And so how many years were you doing that for?
Oh gosh, over 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why the change? Why the tree change, as you said?
Oh, it had been brewing for a couple of years. I think teaching's, anyone that's been near teaching understands that the actual teaching side of teaching is with the kids is fantastic. The pressures around that and beyond that have got more and more and more. And I just started needing to change, and the idea of doing a shop had started brewing in the back of my head for a couple of years. So yeah, took a leap.
Leap of faith. And that was it 2 or 3 years ago now? 3 years ago.
3, yeah, it's gone fast.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And so you had a year before COVID.
Yeah.
But you went into retail, no retail experience.
Nothing.
How was that sort of the learning when you first started? This is prior to COVID, so forget about COVID for a minute. How was the learnings when you sort of started that process?
It was really interesting because I'm used to and I enjoy studying. I thought you can look up everything to do with business on the internet, but you don't know if you're getting the right information. You don't know if you're going to the right pages, the right organisations. And I just wanted to have an overall picture. So I went and did the Small Business Victoria starting a business workshop. I think it goes for like 3 hours or something. And that was sort of the launching pad for that. And through them, they have a mentor service, so you can book in with a mentor. So I found one that had years and years of retail, and took my business idea to him. And he just goes, yeah, just get started. And that was good to have him to actually go. It's almost like I was waiting for permission to start. Yeah. And he was the one that went, yep, go. Just go, this is good.
You just validated your idea.
Yeah. And just someone independent, because I think with family, they can always go, oh, you need to be careful of this and watch out for that. And he just went, yeah, go. And I went, okay, we'll just go. But I also did a Cert 3 in micro business operations. So I actually went and looked for a formal course because I quite liked that structure. And I went through TAFE, and then the course that I found was through my training in Queensland. It's just an online course. And I reckon they stopped me making so many mistakes. It was like business for dummies, and they literally walk you through starting up a business and getting you to investigate the market and write your business plan, all the steps you need to do. And it was a lot of work because like I'd done my master's and a postgrad certificate, and this was a Cert 3, and it had as much work as those levels. So it was a really good course, really, really good course.
I love how, like, when I started my business, Kelly, I just started, like, no idea about anything. I just started, and it's like, I wish I had known someone like you there. You could have told me to do those things, because I just like jumped in, both feet, and thought, okay, now what's next?
Yeah, I just didn't want to I wanted the full picture.
Yeah.
So I wanted, because I thought, oh, I can look up this, but I may not understand that I need to look for this, and this, you know. So it was really, really good that way.
So you kind of became the student for a time after all the teaching. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I was quite surprised because towards the end they were sort of making a big deal of the study that I'd done and the fact that I opened up. So it sounds like in that course there's always a lot of people who just do the course and never start their business, which I thought it's a shame because you do all that work and, you know, you want to get something out of it at the end.
It depends where you are, like at what point you are in your life as well, if that makes sense. You know, if you do something like that out of uni, you can't, I might use that in the future, but then you might work for someone else beforehand or whatever else. So I guess it's what stage you're at with yourself personally as well.
Yeah.
And how did you find the online? Because that was before things had to be online.
Yeah, look, it was absolutely fine. I'd done an Italian degree online. So I was kind of used to that system, and that was through UNE. So I was in New South Wales. So I'm kind of used to that system. And I think too, we'd done a lot of things online with our kids anyway, with our school, because we'd had to set up portals and put everything, all our courses were up online. This was well before COVID. So, I mean, from that point of view, I think teaching would have been a little bit easier because all those systems were already in place for teaching. But so it wasn't too different. But it was good. But it was also good because I could start the business during the day and then study at night if I wanted to do that. It was good.
So the doors opened to Pascoe Tales 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And how did you find on-the-job training? The actual practicality of it all.
Oh, it's like the first few weeks were like deer in headlights, and you know, absolute deer in headlights. And when I look back at the pictures of starting and how minimal the fit out was, and how few products I have compared to now, it's quite funny. But the people in the area were craving it, and that's what I was hoping for, and I was thinking was the case. So everyone's just like embraced it, and now I just get to let it grow.
Well, that's the thing as well, because you're very much about supporting local designers and local makers.
Yeah.
So was that really welcomed into the Pascoe area?
Oh, for sure. But one of the things that really surprised me, I don't know why, but there are so many makers around. And one of the things I wasn't prepared for was maybe 2 or 3 times a week, someone would come in and start the conversation of, oh, I'm a maker, will you take my products? And at the start, I was like, oh, I want to make all these people happy and I want to take all their products. And what I ended up doing was taking too many makers on, and financially that pretty soon I went, yeah, this is not sustainable. Yeah. So I think at one point I ended up with 50 something makers in.
Oh, wow.
And I had to just cull down to, I think I've got 29 now or something. But so that was part of the learning curve for sure. But it still happens now, is people keep coming in and they don't understand why you can't take their products because they see that you don't have their product. But it's like financially it doesn't work that way.
And I guess that's how you've learned over the years as well. Learn from mistakes. As we all do.
Sure.
Yeah. But I guess, like that's the thing, right? So you live in the suburbs, in the northern suburbs where you are, and you're a maker and you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Look at this amazing store here. And so people get excited and want to have their products. So you can understand it from both ends of the spectrum as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the back of your mind, you just hope that with everyone that you refuse, they don't turn away then and start going, oh, she's not really supporting local makers or something. Like all that doubt sort of creeps in. But I don't think that's the case. But I try and explain it well. And I just say, I usually, you have to have your sentences ready to go, I think is the lesson in there. And over time you develop those sentences to just say, look, I can't take anyone right now. But I've got a thing on my website that says, if you're wanting me to kind of keep your information, just give me a little A4 page, just your details, a couple of photos, what you do, and I'll file it. But it's amazing, like I say that to a lot of people and go, that's where I'll go when I'm ready for someone new. But so few people go through with that one little step. Very few. So it's interesting. Yeah. And a lot of I learnt too along the way that I can't take on makers that can't give me paperwork. And there's a lot of sort of more hobbyists and as opposed to makers. So learning those different levels of maker Some are very much further down the line. Everything, they've got polished, websites and Instagram accounts, and their labeling is good and their testing is good. Whereas you'll get someone who's just started doing something and expecting you to take it good. So learning that as well has been pretty important.
Well, I guess that's the thing, isn't it? You're a business, that's your income. You need the people that you're collaborating with to also realise that and take that into consideration and meet you at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've got to have a range of products as well. So, so many people, for instance, make cards. So you can't take 25 people who have cards. So, but it's exciting to know we've got so many creatives around. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think there's, for someone that had the money and the investment and was willing to take the risk, I think there's actually the room for a much bigger shop, a bigger sort of collaboration, a co-op, something bigger with lots more makers. And I've talked with lots of small businesses around here where we've particularly lots of women, and we just said, what if we had this co-op with 8 or 10 of us in there, running our individual shops together. There's a real thing, but at the moment the risk and the finance, and it's too tricky.
After the last couple of years, no one's got excess cash floating around to kind of take the leap either.
Yeah.
When you opened your store, Kelly, did you know you were going to focus on the eco and the support local sort of area, or did you have a different feel for how your store would run?
It's very different to what I intended, which I think is normal with business plans, isn't it? Everyone goes, make one, but it'll probably go out the window pretty quick. The reason I opened it is because I was looking for a shop around. There was nothing in my area. And I wanted the kind of shop where if I went to Daylesford for the day or Kyneton for the day, those little gift shops that you go into, I wanted that in the suburbs. And I am very passionate about the eco side of things and responsible retail, because you go into any store and it's just a sea of plastic. And it just does my head in. And I'm vegan, but I don't preach it in my shop. My shop's just vegan. So because as a vegan, you go into a shop and you have to turn every product over and work out if you can buy it. So anyone can walk into my shop and everything's vegan, done. But again, I'm not throwing it in your face. So that was important to me. But I've got an eco range from a distributor of sort of homewares and cleaning products and all of that. I was never intending to have that in the shop. So, and that's become probably about a third of my business.
Oh, wow. Now.
Yeah. And that's a good range to have, because I learned from them like how to go through a distributor, which means you can stock a wide range, but just a few of each thing. Whereas if I went to all those companies individually, they'd all have a minimum, and it's impossible. So you'd be having to spend $300 here, $500 there. Whereas like for that $500, I can get lots of mix
across
of stuff.
The board,
Yeah. So, and my area is a very green area. So lots of, backyard veggie patches and gardens, and lots of hard rubbish collection, sharing, rescuing. So that people were really craving that, and I didn't realise. So that was really a really nice surprise.
So did you like your shop? I know that it's where you live. But did you intentionally do it for you to be close to the shop, or did you do a bit of research in, this area, people do this and that, and it would suit?
In terms of sort of location, choosing the location. I wanted it local because I didn't have that facility. I didn't have that shop near me, and I'm always really last minute with gifts. Like I'm useless. So I wanted somewhere. Not anymore. And I wanted somewhere where I could just duck down last minute and grab something, because it would always be, the chemist or Bunnings or Officeworks or something was my last go-to, So, and it makes me really happy on a Saturday morning or a Saturday afternoon, and someone comes in and goes, oh my God, I'm on the way to a barbecue. I've got to go and do this. Or I'm on the way to, whatever. I forgot to get a present. And I'm like, that's why I'm here. So they're the little things that make you really happy. Yeah. And this is the first time I've worked and lived in my own community. So I've been, like, the last 15 years I commuted back to Melbourne and back every day. So my commute's like 4 minutes now, and I'm very happy.
Awesome. It makes such a difference, doesn't it? It really does make a difference to your day.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. And
every
just
day.
the energy that I've actually got energy at the end of the day.
And so now we're post-COVID. Let's kind of go back to that sort of tough time
Mm.
you had 2 years ago when you had to shut the doors.
Yeah.
Of course, you're part of our She Was Shine community, and I am a great advocate for your store. I love your popping into your store every now and again and having a little browse, a little potter around all your little things. How was it for you when you first heard that you would have to close the doors?
I think we didn't know what was ahead because it was such a day-to-day thing. We didn't know what was coming or for how long, and it was just, okay, these are the rules now. This is what I have to do. What do I do and adapt? And it didn't bug me so much in that the last 8 months before that, everything had been new. So it was just more new, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You weren't settled in any, you weren't operating for years and years on this certain path. And yeah.
No, it was interesting. It didn't bother me. And I'm an introvert. So I sort of ended up with a routine of working in the shop during the morning, doing my deliveries at lunchtime, and then working from home in the afternoon. And that routine was really, really good because I still had to go to work. So I sort of made that routine. And I think too, I made a point of doing some exercise before I went to work. So just keeping that routine, keeping fit, that kind of thing made a big difference. And I think because some of the benefits, because Australia Post, as we all know, the postage during COVID was terrible. That actually worked in my favour because people in the area knew they could still get something from me the same day. Yeah. And that made a really big difference. The first lockdown, I wasn't making masks, and then that first shorter one, and then in between, when I'd seen a few customers had come into the shop, and one of them said, "Why don't you make masks?" And I thought, "Oh no, I've missed that boat. We're out of lockdown now.
We're past that, yeah."
Yeah,
I've missed it.
Never mind,
Yeah.
And then it all again, as we know, lockdown happened again for quite a while. And I went into mask making mode, and there was a month of I think I worked 8:30 in the morning to 10:30 at night, and just in mask mode for about over a month of non-stop.
Sorry, Kelly, your sewing machine was in the back of your shop when you were sewing away?
Yeah. And then the online orders were just out of control, and eventually I worked out I could make 54 in a day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you hand sewing, that's a lot. So then I could start taking bookings and say, "Oh, I'm 8 days." At one point I got 8 days behind with orders, and just stopped taking orders. So that sort of stuff, that actually went crazy. But that financially, that helped keep the business afloat quite well. So yeah, and then I had mum cutting fabrics in the end to keep up as well. So it was very bizarre. But again, it was just more new. This is what we're doing now. And that kept it going.
Do you think because of it being new, because of it being new, and because you're constantly having to change to work out, the best way forward for your business, it wasn't as, I'm not going to say traumatic, because I think it was still traumatic for you with the business and the overheads and you had to make sure that you're meeting. But do you think it wasn't as maybe painful, as in, you didn't have your routine set in stone. You didn't have your business set in stone before this sort of came about?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, hands down. And I think there were a few other factors as well. My business basically, I had to get help from family in lockdown 4. So by then the money wasn't keeping up. Yeah. And then I got the government help, lockdown 5 and lockdown 6. And otherwise I actually would have gone under. Yeah. But and now it's all fine. But the other things too that were there were a few things that happened by luck that actually helped me out, in that I've kept my business model very inexpensive. And I'm also lucky I only have to support me. So they were two of the things. So things like small things, like I run my internet for the shop off my phone, so I'm not paying for extra internet. I've kept there are a few things that were lucky, like my water bill. A lot of my bills are quite low. There's one big insurance one And by then I'd kind of started to work out the routine. So, but yeah, my rent is reasonably low as well. So I've kept it as cheap as I can, which has helped. I like, even with the government help for my business was a lot. For other businesses, it probably would not have made a drop of difference for the amount that they were giving. So some of that was a lot of luck as well. No, it was interesting, but just that whole pivot word that everyone was talking about was exactly what we had to do.
Well, that's what as I said, I was following you and talking to you during the whole process, and I would go on socials. I'm like, oh, look what Kelly's up to now. This is awesome. Like, you'd come up with something each week or each few weeks to something new to keep things kind of fresh and happening. I'm just in amazement of what you've done over COVID. How did that, do you feel you did that successfully?
Yeah, I think so. I laugh because I have a whole lot of degrees up on my wall, which is not big noting myself. But the funny thing is I have all these degrees on the wall and not one of them is in sewing. And now I've, because of the masks, that started off a sewing path. But I laugh because, you know, we plan all these things in our lives and then you go off and do something else, you know. And so we started with the masks and then I went and sort of, all right, what else can I sew? And so I can't sew clothes, I can't sew difficult things because it just, by the end of the day, makes me angry because you start, you know, you get tired and you start making mistakes. And all right. So I went, what can I make that's easy, simple, profitable, that people actually want to buy and helps them, you know? So I went, you know, little things like headbands and little scarves and things like that, but then heat packs. So I've become the heat pack lady. So, you know, you just don't, none of this was in the business plan, none of it, and I find that quite amusing. That's what I like about business. So yeah, now it's just the sewing kind of kept me going because it was the profit. I didn't have to buy from somebody else, a maker or a distributor, so pretty much all the profit was just mine, and that was my time. And the fabrics are quite, you know, inexpensive. So, and then I set my sewing table up in the window. So even though people couldn't come in, we could wave at each other through the window. So still trying to build and maintain community. Because the cafe next door was able to be open, so the traffic was still there, and then we could wave at each other and message, and I could still deliver to them. So and that worked really well. Yeah.
What other thing that you've restarted? Because I know you're doing this prior to COVID, and I know that I came in with my daughter to your store one night. It was in between lockdowns where we could have, I think it was like 10 people or whatever the limit was.
Yeah.
And you held a beautiful night of music.
Yeah.
And I'm loving how you're combining your love of like different crafts and different music and incorporating them into the store.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I need to get ramped up again because it's such a nice little space. And a lot of people in the area really want a wine bar. So I'm saying, all right, how can I have wine nights combined with music? And so that I'm not quite back to that point yet. Also, there's a massive backyard in my shop. So one of the dreams right before COVID hit was to open up that space and have some acoustic nights. And so that's all still there, but not going strong yet. But I've managed to get the workshops, the arts and crafts and sewing workshops going again, which that's the current step, and having sort of a terms block booked ahead of time. So that's going to happen for the first time this term. So that feels like a big step. And once that gets running, then we'll move across maybe to concerts. So yeah, a bit of event management as well, which is something that I've already done before.
And I think it's a beautiful way of also, like, it's you, Kelly, you know what I mean? Like that's your personality. They're your loves, and you're bringing that to your community.
Yeah. And I figure if I crave those things and they're not in the area, other people must be craving them, surely. So
you're not the only one.
Yeah. So far so good.
Yeah. Now I don't want to focus on COVID because now we're coming out of that. How have things picked up for you?
I'm in touch with a bunch of female business owners in the area, and some are online and some have actual spaces, bricks and mortar spaces. And we all found the same thing, which was very bizarre. When we came out of lockdown, everything got worse. and it got worse for about 2 months, and it was dead. And everyone was not spending, and we're all like, what's going on? We don't understand. And I think we just assume, you know, everyone's trying to work out what their lives are like again, getting new routines. And I think a lot of people are exhausted because suddenly they had they were scheduled again and they were busy again, and we're not used to it because we've been so quiet for so long. Also, obviously, there's not as much money circulating, and our habits had changed. But yeah, those first 2 months were a bit, you know, hold your breath. And you know, Christmas was good, but then the January, February was usually quiet, but it was quieter than normal. But since then, it started to come back, you know, bit by bit, and yeah, it's been tricky, and it just feels like a series of quiet, because usually in retail you have ups and downs, and you know, busy days, busy seasons, and quiet seasons. But there's been such a long stretch of quiet. It's quite hard. But again, because I'm only supporting myself and my business model's inexpensive, it's been okay. Like, I've been fine.
Yeah. Have you thought about hiring staff?
I have, but it's such an expensive proposition. Yeah. And at the moment, it's not stable enough to do, like, so just to support myself is still just enough. And I know I spoke to one of the girls who has an ice cream shop up the road, and she said, you know, if you're employing someone for minimum wage or a little bit more, it actually costs you probably double that, or, you know, it's actually not what you think it is, it's more. So, I mean, down the track I'd love to, but at the moment it's not feasible.
I think, though, because of the business being very much about you and your loves, like, it's so much like, of course, you know, you're going to need to hire staff eventually when you get bigger, blah, blah, blah. But how nice is it to, I enjoy it, walking into your store and chatting to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's that relationship, there's the community aspect. Yeah. And it's all very much tied to you being in the store as well.
Yeah.
No pressure to be there every day or anything, Kelly.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is I sometimes I think about hiring somebody in, and then I think, oh gosh, you know, because you do so much of it in your own head. It's like, how do I get someone who cares about it as much as me? And I don't think any staff member's ever going to care as much as you do, because it's your baby.
It's your baby, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's still a way off, but yeah, I'm sure there'd be someone out there who'd you know, take good care of it. And but at the moment, you know, if I need to go off and do something, Mum comes in, so and I think she enjoys it.
Mums are the best, aren't they? Do you miss teaching?
I'm still doing some because I've got my Sunday, Monday off. I filled in for someone all through term one, just at one of the schools, and I've done a little bit of emergency teaching on Mondays, so it's still there, and I still teach at home. So I don't miss the. I want to say there's a better word, but I don't miss the nonsense of teaching. So and the actual teaching I loved, and I do miss it from time to time. Yeah, and I miss the kids, and you know, they're funny to be around, but I don't miss the pressure. So the pressure. I love the fact I'm relaxed every day. I'm not spending my home time recovering from the work. You know, I get home and I could go out again. Yeah, so even though I've given up a really, really good salary, I'm more relaxed than I've been in a long time, and have energy and calmer. So I'd rather be like this and have a low income than what I had, I think.
Yeah, the balance is better.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Did you, when you sort of left full-time teaching, did you think, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back?
Oh, I think that's always there. And I'll maintain my teaching registration, only because it's impossible to get back if you lose it. It's really hard. But yeah, I'm still at a point like that, and it's very hard to let go of your old identity. And I don't even know if you have to, but it's very hard, because I was known to a certain degree in that industry. To go into another one, it's very hard to let go of being known. I think that's one of the challenges, I think.
What forms your story? Like, that's who you are. That's where you've come from. That's part of you.
Yeah. And I think too, there's some, it's probably just in my head, but the idea of being in a shop is somehow lesser than being an educator. And it's not, but it's just me getting my head around that.
Yeah, it's interesting because retail, you know, people go, oh, just get a job in retail. But it's like, well, it's actually more than that.
I think too, part of the course that I did made me realise too how many of my skills from teaching and admin and teaching were transferable into what I'm doing. It's not actually a brand new set of skills. Yeah, and I still get to do teaching in the classes and the workshops as well. So that's a good switch.
I was going to say a well-oiled machine, but you've got something that's working really well. You've created something that's the community needed. You're building community around your store in itself.
Mm.
I know that you're thinking, you know, down the track, more workshops, wine bar be nice, something similar to that degree. Do you think like that will be, is that the end goal, or do you think there's another end goal?
No idea. I think COVID put a bit of a spanner in the works because it's been survival really for 3 years, not being able to grow. So, and yeah, just had to throw all the thinking effort into just surviving. So yeah, I don't really know at this point, because to grow, like you're saying, requires probably more staff. So making that shift is a whole different set of commitments and different mindset and growing. Yeah, because I can quite happily stay in the size I am by myself and just keep ticking along. So yeah, over time I need to work out what I'm aiming for.
Well, that's the thing as well, isn't it? We don't all want the big empire.
The business mentor I had goes, you know, well, think big, and you know, you might open your second store. And I went, what do you mean? Well, hang on, what, a second store? What? But I don't know that I can. I don't know. I don't think that's what I want.
But even like you're saying, the wine bar, you could have a pop-up wine bar like once every 6 months, or I don't know, for 3 weeks a year or whatever it is. You don't have to commit to a full-time extra business.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Having that flexibility to just schedule a term at a time, and you can take, you know, add and take as you please. But there is I do believe that with a decent investment and a whole bunch of people, you could do much bigger scale. I think the community wants it, but it's just a whole other proposition. I think that is there. But at the moment, that's a big risk.
So Kelly, over the last 3 years, what do you think has been your biggest learning?
Probably just how retail runs, I think. Not so much about being with customers I already knew, managing people I already knew, event management I already knew, really about how retail runs and how suppliers work and distributors work and how to move stock. And yeah, it's really the retail specific parts of it, I think, were the biggest challenges, and how far your money will go and how much stock will fill up certain amounts of shelves, and managing that, and cash flow, I think, are the biggest ones.
I think you've done amazing over the last 3 years. Like I said, every time I would look on socials or kind of see what you're up to something different, and you're pivoting. And I know we don't like that word as much as some people do, but it's like you've met the challenge head on, Kelly. Like seriously, watching you over the last 2 years has been just amazing. You've been really inspirational.
Oh, thanks very much. Sometimes it's so hard to not put. You keep getting tempted to put things on Instagram that are not negative, but you know, and a lot of people put, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. And again, I just went, every now and again I went to post with something that was, you know, not working. I was frustrated or having a bad day, and I went, no, I'm just going to keep sending out good stuff to the customers, because they're having their own issues, and I'm just going to here's a little bit of happiness for the day, you know. And I think that's worked, even though you're tempted every now and again to, you know, put something out. I think the little bits of positive are what we need. And it's not here I'm a perfect store kind of posts or anything, but just there's a little bit of joy.
Yeah, we all need a little bit more joy nowadays, don't we? We still need it. Kelly, 10 years ago, would you have thought that you would be doing this now?
No, I was in the busyness of teaching and the world of craziness and just go, long hours. No.
Would you have thought you'd be running a business ever in your life?
No. I wasn't thinking beyond teaching because I was so ingrained in the system and the job and no. But one of the funniest things, one of the things that stuck in my head was actually from a movie. And I don't know if you know, It's Complicated with Meryl Streep and Alec Baldwin. And she runs this, it's all the Nancy Myers films, and she has a bakery, and it's the most stunning bakery. And that's actually one of the things that twigged me to have this idea of a beautiful shop that people can walk in and just escape everything, and this luxury. And that was one of the things that twigged me, and that I think it's probably one of the first things. And I thought, I can do that. But
you could picture yourself there.
But I've also, when I left school, I got an interior design qualification. So I think that's been brewing as well. And this is where I can get it out of my system. So use those art skills.
Well, the store's gorgeous. The way you arrange it, it's just beautiful. Like I said, I potter around. I go from little section to section and sort of have a look at what you've got. But it's beautifully laid out, and obviously, you're bringing the skills to the table that you've learned over the years.
No, it's really fulfilling, but it's just been a big mind shift. So from a very long career in one direction. So
awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Kelly. It's been fabulous talking to you. Finally.
No, thanks for talking to me today. It's been really lovely, and it's nice. We always move forwards in our paths, but it's nice to actually look back and go, oh yeah, I've actually come a long way, and
100%.
And we've got new community, and I have the She Will Shine team, and met lots of new people. So
it's amazing. You know what, before we go, I was thinking the other day about all the amazing women that I've met because of She Will Shine, that if I had been working for someone else or staying at home with my kids, I would never have had the opportunity to meet such a varied group of amazing women, and of all ages.
And supportive is the biggest thing, the supportive ones, because there are other networks out there, women's networks, but I don't feel connected to that at all. But this one, I feel very, very connected. And even though I may not see everybody all the time, I know it's there, and it's like this little safety spot, and everyone's very similar in their generosity and kindness and support and knowledge. And it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Kelly. Awesome. Well, we'll chat again soon, Kelly, no doubt. I am constantly watching your space because, like I said, you're just doing amazing things. But definitely, if you're in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, in Pascoe Vale, what's your address there? Sussex Street. What number, Kelly?
248.
248 Sussex Street, Pascoe Vale. Head down and visit Kelly in her gorgeous store. Highly recommend it. But yes, thank you so much for your time today, Kelly, and I'm looking forward to chatting to you again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode of the She Will Shine podcast, we invite you to check out shewillshine.com.au. She Will Shine is the essential support network you need to grow a thriving, meaningful business. We can help you grow your network, connect and develop genuine relationships, be supported, and support others in building and growing a successful business on your terms. Say goodbye to working alone and become a member at shewillshine.com.au.